Well, here we are. I was feeling a bit talkative, like in a mood to talk, and I haven't made a video in a really long time, but I thought, I guess, what better way to talk to nobody than to talk to the internet. Yeah, but I haven't posted for like a year, I would say, and quite a bit has changed since then. I am no longer in a relationship, and I moved to a new apartment. My pet also has passed away, or one of my pets, I guess I should say. I've had a lot of family changes, and today actually, or tomorrow, one of my close friends is moving to a different state, pretty far away, over a 20-hour drive type of deal. And tonight I'm gonna see her for the last time in hopefully just a while, hopefully not the last time ever, but I feel like in my mind I'm I don't know if I'll ever actually see this person again, and what does that mean for me, and just all the emotions that are there. There's really a lot. But yeah, I'm no longer in a relationship. I haven't been in a relationship now actually for over 3 months, and that's been really crazy. The breakup was it was really a lot, and the situation with it, him and I were living together. We had moved into a house together, had signed a year-long lease, and we had gone to visit my sibling, who lives in another state, and we were on that trip, and it was a really good trip, and him and I, my ex-partner, we had kind of detoured on the trip and done kind of our own things alongside seeing my sibling and just family in general. So it was a lot to do with others, but also just really to do with ourselves, and I felt like there was so much that kind of happened on that trip that was very moving for us to move into this next phase, which I guess maybe explains how taken off guard I was through everything. My partner and I, we had been together for almost 3 years. It was 2 months shy of 3 years. And yeah, so I was full-heartedly kind of coming home from this trip, expecting to re-sign this lease, expecting to come home to my 2 pets. And we came home, and we were driving home. It was a road trip. And my friend was watching my 2 pets, and we come in, and my friend had said everything was fine, and I'm fully expecting for everything to just be fine, and we walk in, and one of them is dead in our living room, and that was just such a crazy experience, honestly. I think I'm getting so emotional, and that's, I'm not trying to make some kind of an emotional video, but it was just, yeah, a really surreal experience, to come home and find, your pet passed away, and she was 8 years old, or her birthday was in a week, so she was going to be 8 years old, and it just was it was hard to grieve. It was hard to grieve that for sure, because there were all the questions of if we would have gotten home sooner, if we wouldn't have detoured here and made this stop here, if we would have come home the day before, if we would have done this or that or this or that. And yeah, so a lot of feelings there for sure. And then about a week and a half kind of went by of grieving that, and grieving her, and trying to kind of sort through how to grieve her, and it's so funny actually because I didn't feel like my partner was being there for me emotionally as much as I would have hoped for him to be. And so we had a conversation about it that kind of slowly turned into an argument. And he said that he was going to really like think about it, and he was going to come to me the next day and we could talk about it. And so the next day comes and the atmosphere is fine, and I'm honestly not thinking too much about it because the atmosphere had improved. And then like halfway through the day I'm like, okay, like he said he'll talk to me about it sometime today, like I wonder when that will happen or if that will happen. And so it reaches maybe around like 6 p.m. and he'd gone on a couple kind of longer walks that day, I remember. And it was around 6 p.m. and he said, you know, do you still want to talk about this? And I was like, well, yeah, like if you want to, of course. And so he was like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go for like one more kind of walk. I'll be home, you know, in maybe like 30 minutes and we can talk. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And I'm in my room. We had separate bedrooms. Like we slept in the same room, but we had separate just bedrooms for our space and whatnot. So anyway, I'm in my room and I'm watching TV, and he ends up coming in at that once he gets home, and he starts talking, and it feels very deep, and but it is on topic for like my pet passing, so I'm not thinking too much of it. And then he kind of starts going into like re-signing the lease, and at this point it's just about like three to 4 weeks until we would have needed to move out of the house if we're not re-signing. So at this point, I'm surprised that our landlord hasn't actually reached out to us to say, hey, are you guys re-signing? But our landlord, that was kind of typical for him. He was very hands-off, so it wasn't too, you know, crazy, but it would have been right around the time where we would have had to re-sign, and then it would have been like 3 to 4 weeks until we would have need to move out if we're not re-signing, so not a huge amount of time. And he starts talking about re-signing the lease, and he's, you know, saying how moving in together was a really big commitment, and how re-signing, we were planning on re-signing for 2 years, how that will be or would be a very big commitment as well. And I don't remember what he said, but he suddenly said something that I just had that feeling, and I kind of like whipped my head around, and I was like, do you not want to live with me anymore? And he said no. And then I said, do you want to be with me anymore? And he said, no, I'm breaking up with you. And it's so funny because it's like, I feel like that moment will kind of just flash like through my head sometimes of like, wow, that actually happened. Like I can't believe that that actually happened. And yeah, and that was that. And I mean, it was wild. It was just really crazy. But I think the biggest thing for me right away was like, where am I gonna live? What is my living situation going to look like? Because I really didn't think I'd be able to live on my own. So that was a really big concern for me just right off the bat. But then of course it's just that crazy feeling that's like no other, of just this grief for like your future, and this just existential dread of waking up in the middle of the night. And I mean, I feel like that's more so how it is now. At that point it was like literally not even being able to sleep, but that just constant dread, and you sleep like a few hours that are such bad quality, and you wake up and it just hits you again, and it's like this just wave of badness just washes over you. And it's really crazy for sure. It's very building. But anyway, we remained living in that house for the next like 3 weeks until we moved out officially and found me a place to live, and he ended up moving back in with his parents. And then from that point on, it's just been very, very back and forth and up and down and all over. And He's gone on, at this point, 3 trips within the past 2 months. 2 solo trips and then 1 trip with his family. And I have just been, I'm not gonna say stuck, but I've been very stuck here. Like, I haven't gone anywhere, I haven't been doing anything. I've moved into my new apartment, and I have been really keeping up with my own life. I've been seeing a lot of friends, I've been trying to build my connections, I've been trying to go out and experience just different things and new things and take my mind off of things, but also kind of try to start living this new life. But it's so funny because it's almost as if I've remained so stuck in this weird place because him and I have continued seeing each other. And you know, I'm not going to place blame at all. I think a lot of us seeing each other has to do with us both, but I think a lot of the initiation did come from me, because maybe getting to the actual point of this video, but how to move on from a breakup that you did not want, and how to move on from a person who you still are in love with and who you didn't anticipate anything and didn't know anything. And I just feel like I don't necessarily hear about breakups like that all that often. I think I hear more about breakups where there's one person who they've done something and it either causes just the end of the relationship, or it causes the other person to say, hey, this is too much, I'm ending this. Or I feel like I hear about like mutual breakups where kind of both parties are like, hey, we're just growing apart. But I don't know if I hear about it so much of just out of the blue. And not to say that it doesn't happen, because I also don't feel like I know that many people who've had pretty intense breakups, but I don't feel like I hear people talk very much about going forward after a breakup that you did not want, that you did not anticipate. And it's like to the point, to the extreme level of like, I saw my entire future with this person, I imagined marrying this person, having children with this person, growing old with this person. And that's such a challenging thing to sort of reprogram your way in this way of like, that isn't happening anymore. And it's nothing to do with, you know, you not wanting something. It's fully to do with this other person not wanting something. And it's so hard to even understand why. Like, why? And you could go down a whole rabbit hole of questions. You can, you know, ask yourself, was I not good enough? Was the love not enough? Was the relationship not enough? What was it ultimately? And you can really, I think, just spiral in that way. And I'm kind of in disbelief, because I don't feel like I've really struggled as much as I would have expected to. And not to say that I'm doing well, I don't think I am. But the way that I was directly after he broke up with me versus, I guess more I'm thinking if somebody would have said like, hey, this is how you'll be in a couple months time, I think I would have been in pure disbelief and confusion. And then that kind of makes me wonder about, like, was I truly as invested as I thought I was? Or I don't know why that's like immediately what I go to, but it's kind of just like, if my reaction is not like so strong and as strong as I would have anticipated it to be, like, why is that? You know what I mean? So that's a really interesting thing that I feel like I kind of think about, but I just feel like I'm not struggling as much as I would have thought I am. And I mean, I feel like mentally the really challenging thing for me is just to understand that, like, more the acceptance. I think the acceptance of it all is what is so challenging. And I think that's normal and okay, and I think a lot of people, I just think everybody struggles with acceptance in life. But yeah, like, somebody kind of making this decision for you in this way of your life is going to dramatically shift and change because I want it to. I think it feels so unfair. And I remember specifically, really only right after he broke up with me, but I almost refused to believe it. I was like, this isn't happening. Like, this cannot happen to me. I was in such shock of it all, and you know, I just didn't understand how kind of that choice could be made for me. And anyway, point being, I think it's insane. It's an insane process to move on from something that you never would have wanted to move on from. And like, of course, at the end of the day within the relationship, there were certain issues, there were certain flaws. It's not like he was a perfect person or I was a perfect person. But I had so much love for what we had, and you know, I viewed it all so positively, I think, at the end of the day. And we were both very young. We both still are very young, but I very much saw it as something that it was like we were growing together, we're working through things together. And I don't think it came down to anything being also bad or also negative. I think it came down to like himself and his identity not being within us, and just him not being able to kind of like see that future, which is really hard, I feel like, to even say or think about. But you know, I don't think it was so bad, and I think I had those feelings and he did not. And that's just so hard, repeating the same things over and over, but so hard to move on from, and so hard to move forward and understand that, you know, that actually is not meant for you. And I think that maybe something that I've tried to kind of like say to myself to ground myself a little bit is like, a person who is fully invested in you will want to be, and will make that very clear, and will make that known. And yeah, I think that's what I tried to hold on to a little bit, to give myself sort of that hope and clarity for the future. And I think that also the back and forth has been really damaging for the past few months, and not to say that it hasn't been enjoyable, but the paradox of it all, it's so wild to me. Like, right now I have a hickey on my body from him, and then I have these feelings of grief and disbelief and hurt. And I think I'm really tired. I'm tired of the loop that I'm in, and I'm tired of being stuck in that. It's draining. It's not enlightening for me anymore. I think that's how I kind of used to see it. I used to kind of try to say that it feels enlightening. It feels like maybe, you know, I had a lot of hope that we would get back together, and I think that could be where a lot of the ignition to continue seeing each other came from, as well as just the loneliness and the comfort of it all, because it's a familiar person. But one thing is, like, for me, this is just grief, and this is just, you know, there's this need to kind of accept that this is happening. And for him, it's like he wanted this, he chose this, and I feel like now he's choosing me as kind of his transition, or like his transitional piece that he can almost like utilize to move forward and have maybe like an easier time doing that. And I think that feels very unfair to me, and unfair to just like my identity as a person, and I'm just tired of it. And I'm not placing blame. Like I said, I think so much of us seeing each other has had to do with me, and it's had to do with me not wanting to let go, because why would I want to let go at the end of the day if I didn't want something? So, you know, it makes a lot of sense. But anyways, I think it's just something that I've realized has been very hurtful at the end of the day. And yeah, just conclusively has not been anything that's been good or beneficial. And I'm really happy that I can actually begin to kind of have those feelings, because I don't think I would tap into those feelings. I think I would understand that I felt that way, but I don't think I would ever tap into them to the degree of being like, okay, I am going to put my foot down now, and I am going to kind of have that self-discipline, because we're still in the same area, we're still in the same city and whatnot, and we're very nearby to each other. We're maybe a 3-minute drive, maybe, which does get really challenging, you know. But anyway, yeah, just a bit of a ramble, but just kind of grappling with that idea of trying to move on from something that you didn't want to move on from. And it, you know, if you could have ever had the choice, you'd been like, absolutely not. Why would I want this time? Why would I want to move on from this? So yeah, but this video is becoming quite long, and you know, I'm just gonna mark this. I'm at 3 months and like, I don't know how many days, maybe, I don't know, 3 months and a week around, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of where I'm at, and I'm proud of like where I'm at right now. I'm not proud of maybe all the decisions I've made along the way, but I'm proud of where I'm at right now. And yeah, so we will see what happens, and hopefully I can continue kind of talking on here. But anyway, bye.